Well, good morning. I know the very first thought on my mind is I'm so glad this is not a tent this year because it would be a little wet, and I'm not sure. Might have to call in and say, I'm sorry, I won't be able to make it. But it's great to be here today. Thank you so much to the Alpharetta Business Association. And I know we a second ago, we did recognition of elected officials. But I want to call out again, we've got 3 council members here this afternoon, or this morning. Some of the others have work obligations, that sort of thing, that they couldn't get away from. But we have Mr. Cross, Mr. Owens, and Mr. Mitchell, and you know, this is the leadership of your city, and we've got some great volunteers, and that's essentially at the end of the day, your council. It's a group of volunteers who are serving, and we've got some great leaders, some great expertise, and I'm grateful for all that you guys do. We're a really great team. I've had the privilege of serving on multiple councils. If you count a different council every time a different personality changes, because believe me, that has a big impact. And this is by far the best council that I've served with, and I'm honored to serve with you guys. So thank you so much for what you do. Yeah, you can give an applause. I saw one on the Well, it's a great morning. It's a great day in Alpharetta, and I do have a quick question for you, and that is, when you're planning on going on a road trip, I have a question. Is how much thought on that trip do you put into the gas or the gas stations that you stop along the way? And if you're like us, when we head south towards Florida, you know, we pack up the car, we make sure that we get the DVD players in there because those things are miraculous. And if you haven't figured this out, headphones are also miraculous because we didn't figure that out for the first couple of years of the effort. But it turned out to be a great thing. We could actually have a conversation and enjoy the ride, so to speak. But when it comes to gas and we head south, we basically just pick whatever gas station is around when our tank gets low. And it may be a gas station where we stop for lunch or where we stop for dinner. But not a whole lot of thought goes in it. Contrast that to when we recently went to North Carolina to see my brother, because we are a big fan of Quick Trip. And Candace and I was going to put a Quick Trip cup up there, but I thought that might bring the level of the event down a bit. But Candace and I have actually had events there, dates there. They have, yeah. Well, they have the drinks, they have the flavorings, and it's actually quite cool. And then. Unfortunately, I've had I've run in a few campaigns, and there's nothing better at the end of a 2-3 o'clock sign run than having something that rotates. I don't know how long it's been rotating, but they've got a lot of things that are there. But the point is that there's a lot of value there. In fact, our kids get excited. If they do really good, like during the summer, we'll take them to Quick Trip. They got all kinds of good stuff there. And so we were headed to, you didn't think we were going to be talking about Quick Trip, I know. There's a lot of good things to talk about, and I'm talking about a convenience store. It's okay. But we were headed towards North Carolina, and we certainly fueled up at our Quick Trip here, and then we made sure that we hit the ones along the way, because there's a cluster of Quick Trips around Greenville, and then a cluster of Quick Trips around Charlotte. In fact, at one particular point on the way home, I think we were pushing our faith and our gas gauge to make sure that we could actually get to one, because our kids had come to depend on it. And we learned something new, is that the Quick Trips that you and I know that are around here, those are Generation 2 Quick Trips. They're not Generation 3. When you go to Greenville or when you go to Charlotte, those are Generation 3 Quick Trips. And I'm not going to try to explain the difference, but trust me, it's worth it. We're going to have a new Quick Trip, and this isn't really one of the things I wanted to talk about. We're going to have a new Generation 3 Quick Trip eventually off Old Milton Parkway. But as a business owner, as a leader of an organization, the city of Alpharetta, sometimes I look at things and wonder, how is it that value there was created beyond the gas itself? In other words, the Quick Trip gas, and I'm sure if someone works for Quick Trip, first they would say thank you to me right now. But the other thing they would probably be able to tell me is that the gas is somehow different than somebody else's gas. I don't think it is. I'm sorry. But what is it that creates that value beyond the thing? And I know as city leaders, we often think about that too, because Alpharetta is a great place. But some people moved here because it's close to Atlanta. Some people moved here because it's close to Hartsfield or close to a job. Some people moved here for other reasons, and those are good and valid reasons. But the point is that if you have a business or if you have an organization, chances are that organization, that business, some of the success you have may not be because of a particular unique feature. It may just be because you're most convenient or you're the person that they knew. And so as you try to make that business better, it always becomes incumbent upon us is how do we add value beyond the thing? Or with respect to Alpharetta, how do we add value beyond geography, value beyond the dot that's on the map? And sometimes when a company figures out how to create that value, they don't even know that they've done it. I don't know how many of y'all remember Coca-Cola in the 80s. They decided to ditch the old formula, and they went with New Coke. And there was this outcry, especially in the South. And it was amazing some of the responses. Fidel Castro, who I usually don't quote in speeches, he considered the change, the ditching of the old Coke formula as being a proof that capitalism had failed. There was an attorney, of course there was an attorney, who decided to sue Coca-Cola for the fact that they had changed their formula. There were groups that had organized that would buy Coca-Cola in other countries where the formula, I don't know if it either hadn't been changed or hadn't caught up with them yet, but there was this big outcry, and what Coca-Cola learned is that there's this huge value beyond of putting a soda or a drink together. And so as we consider Alpharetta, as we lead Alpharetta, and we look to create, how to find ways to create value beyond the geography, beyond that spot on the map. There's a lot we can do. Certainly the best way to show or to demonstrate how a town can have value is when you think of a hometown. Because we all intuitively know that a hometown is better than some town. That there are things that you do when you consider a town your hometown that you wouldn't ordinarily do. You'll give more, you participate more, you engage more. And so the question for us is how do we create that value? And now here's the problem with the hometown situation is first that, yes, we're Alpharetta, but we're in a metropolitan area of about 5.2 million people. There's 140 cities/towns in the metropolitan area, 28 counties. There's a lot going on. In addition to that, the one reason that we might have a little trouble with this hometown scenario, if you consider a hometown as the place where you grew up, is that in 1950, Alpharetta was 916 people. By 1980, it was 3,000 people. 1990, it was 13,000 people. By 2000, it was 35,000 people. And today, it's almost 60,000 people. And what that means is not very many people in this room grew up in Alpharetta. Chances are you moved somewhere else. So we've got to figure ways to create that value. And one of the things, as I look at what we do and what our council has done and what we're looking to do, is that it really comes down to three things. And it's endow, invest, and invite. Endow, invest, and invite. And those are the things that I think start help getting us there. Now, endow is a word that we don't use very much, but it has a very simple meaning. And it just means to produce quality or talent. And that's really where any city should start. And that's what we have. We have the blocking and tackling, the creating an excellent city that runs well. We've got that. And if you'll bear with me just a little bit, because it bears talking about, I wanted to kind of go through some of the things with our endowing, with this blocking and tackling that we're doing really, really well. The first thing I'll talk about is not because public safety is a better department than any other, although Director George would disagree, wherever he is. But that's our first obligation. If we're not keeping you safe, your family safe, the guests safe, your business safe, then there's really nothing else for us to do. And we're fortunate and blessed that Alpharetta has never been a place for a lot of crime, and successively we get chipping away at it year after year after year. And I'm particularly excited that the difference between 2011 and 2012, our violent crimes decreased 24%. Our property crimes increased about 13-14%, but what's really neat is when you look at the breakout of the property crimes, the one that concerns me the most, which would be a burglary, decreased around 24% year over year. So that's exciting news. And on top of that, and we talked a little bit about this last night at the council meeting, Alpharetta is an ISO Class 2 city, which means we have incredible response times that puts us at the top 4%. So on the blocking and tackling when it comes to public safety, we do quite well at that. I also want to point out Mr. Harris is the director of our finance department. And we can tell you that we have a low tax structure. We can tell you that we're fiscally conservative and that we're responsible with the money. But when it really matters is when somebody else who doesn't have an interest in your city determines that it's good. And recently, as you know, we floated a $29 million bond, and we were evaluated by some of the brightest minds on Wall Street, and we were found by Moody's Standard & Poor's to be yet again a AAA-rated city, one of 2 AAA-rated cities in the state. So thank you, Tom Harris, and thank you, Council, for your good leadership in keeping that financial responsibility. So that's fantastic. Obviously, we also need to make sure we've got good roads. Transportation is a big deal, and Pete's here somewhere. Yeah, somewhere. There he is. So, we want to make sure we've got the right folks in place. We want to make sure we've got good transportation plans, and it's always been a priority of council. And so Pete, in his leadership in this last year, did no less than the best transportation, the best transportation team or program in the state. So thank you for doing that. So we've got good quality people doing great things. Our parks, now I failed to mention this last year, Mr. Perry, but they were #1 the previous year for a population our size, and we have 3. People sometimes say, well, gosh, we don't have enough parks. And that's fair, I guess, except that we have 3 100-acre parks, as well as a 6-mile greenway, pocket parks, and also neighborhood parks, I guess would be the best way to call that. So we've got some really great things when it comes to what we have. Now, also community development, we've recently made some changes in community development. We won't go too deep into that, but we've got a change in leadership, a change in culture there, and we've got some really nice synergies happening between our engineering department, our finance department, our community development department, and also our economic development, which brings us to a new guy that we hired recently, Peter Tokar, and I'm not even going to try to point you out because that's just wasting time, isn't it? There you are. Peter's doing an excellent job. We've had a few folks in this post before, but no one's tackled it and been as aggressive as Peter. We're considering in our mid-year budget process expanding that and having someone else help him in his role in economic development as that becomes a more key focus of this council. So we're excited about the good works that he's been able to do. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go down. So that covers the endow portion of what we do. And in and of itself, what it really is creating an environment where that value can happen. And it's not going to do it all by itself. But the first part of creating that environment where you add value beyond that geography is really just making sure you have a superior quality product. And when it comes to city, when it comes to being the stewards of the people's money, of your money, we're doing a great job at that. And then what comes next, of course, is the invest. Now, I don't mean invest in terms of just spend money somewhere. I know that some governments that are very large just spend money just because they think it's economically prudent. But we're not going to do that. We're going to invest in things that either A, help us on the endow side, or help us on the invite side, which I'll talk to you in a minute about. But so in doing that, we've had some pretty significant investments that we've been working on in 2012. I know you're all familiar with downtown, and I'm not going to do a whole lot on downtown today because, man, we have talked about it, and it's important. But I'm not going to bore you with saying some of the same things. But I will say this: it is a generational project. It is going to be a place that helps us have a place to be and to do community together. I do think it is a changer. And if you're going to try to create value, you've got to create identity. And this is a place where neighbors, where families, where friends can come together. The council and the staff have been working tirelessly on this. Just yesterday, not counting the normal council meeting, nearly all the council and many of the staff were engaged in a 3-hour meeting just talking about everything. Some of the, I'll be honest with you, some things are exciting, I'm excited about and passionate about, and some things I'm not. We actually were picking carpet and other things and tiles. Some folks, some council members who make their living on that really enjoy that, but others of us are a little on the bigger picture thing. So there were a few of us like, I don't know. On the bathroom tile, I went and got something to drink. I didn't know I was done on that, but it's going to be great. It's going to be great. We've got some great things happening there. Also on the invest side, and I know we have some North American property folks here somewhere. There you go. Guys, there's not a whole lot of cities that got to break ground this year on a $600 million project. And it's not, yeah, absolutely. It is an honor to us that you guys would invest in our city to that degree. We support you. The council has done a fabulous job in coming to that approval process in a way that did not increase the multifamily density, which is a big concern for a lot of us. But we're able to get to something that truly will work. We're excited to see that come out of the ground, and we know that's going to be one of the things that helps us stay in the lead economically going forward. So we're behind you, and of course we're wishing you the best and success. And besides, we're ready for some of those things to come down, which now have. So that was, I got to say that I've been on the job, I guess, 12 months or 14 months or so. And that was certainly a big highlight, is being able to break ground on that, see things start to come down, and instead of just seeing a lot of verbiage about something, but to actually see it come to fruition. So we're excited about that. So another item to invest. Now in this case, the $600 million is not taxpayer dollars, so it's even a better invest. So thank you for your investment in Alpharetta. One of the other areas where we have invested, although not necessarily monetarily at this point, is in our Technology Commission. In this room, and I know Robert Hendricks is here, and I know Bill's here. I'm not sure who else is here from the technology. Right here, we got a whole table of our Technology Commission here. Thank you for what you guys have done. We have 600 technology companies inside the city limits of Alpharetta, another 300 around our periphery. But we've never created the community or reached out to those folks until last year. And with the help of Governor Deal, we launched that commission. And there's some great things that you've probably heard. I'll say them briefly. There's really 4 things that they're charged with doing. And one is first of all, there's 4 committees. We call one No Alpharetta. And really that's just about taking A, stock of who's here, and B, helping to facilitate and create a community among the technology companies that are here, because we know that, again, that's what leads to the value beyond the geography. We also have Grow Alpharetta, where they're exploring the possibilities of partnering with Georgia Tech and the ATDC to look at an incubator program, so we're excited about that. Brand Alpharetta, Alpharetta being the technology city of the South, we need to know who knows that, who needs to know that, and where does that need to be known. And then finally, Build Alpharetta, and that's really what prompted it, is that many of you know we have one of the best fiber optic cable networks in the country. We have one of the best power grid systems in the country. But that was so 15 years ago. We've got to figure out, if we're going to go forward, if we're going to continue to lead, what's next. And by engaging, now these professionals, they don't need to be on another committee. Okay, they've got enough stuff going on. These are all C-level and director-level folks that are volunteering their time to make Alpharetta a better place. And so it's their investment in this case, as well as the city's investment, that we're excited about. We look forward to y'all's leadership and everything that you guys are doing. So thank you so much. Also, on investing, Gwinnett Tech has been talked about for a long time. And there was always this idea, or I should say always, but for a while there was this idea that they would have a separate campus in North Fulton, still called Gwinnett Tech, but anyway, forget that part. But the point being is that they were going to open up a new campus. And there was a real synergy with what we're doing as a technology city and with what we can do from an education standpoint. I know Dan McBride's here somewhere. And anyway, I should have had like placards. There he is. He's over there. And but anyway, so we'd actually pursued them. We tried our best to present Alpharetta in the best light, which is not hard. And we also put forward a $4 million incentive if they would come and build in Alpharetta. So they're going to be across from Avalon, so they're sitting appropriately here in the room. And the impact there is not just, okay, great, you've got a technology institute there, technology college there in your city, great. No, it's much bigger than that, and we realize that. The curriculums that you guys offer and the ability to craft those curriculums to the employers that we have and may have sometime in the future, I don't think we'll fully understand the impact of that until many years, 5 or so years after you've cut the ribbon. But we're excited that you're here as a big win for the city. Also, in terms of, we'll mention that on the invite side. So we've got the endow, we've got the invest, and finally, in order to create that value beyond the geography, it comes down to invite. And this is the kind of the fun part. It's the part where we get to some degree, be the best cheerleader for our city and telling what's happening, but it also is the opportunity to bring people together. And if you've noticed downtown this last year, we've had a lot of great leadership with this organization, the Alpharetta Business Association, and a lot of the hands and the feet and the minds that go behind these things are sitting in this room, and we appreciate that. But if you've been to downtown recently, there's been a lot of new events. There's been a lot of things happening, a lot of activities, a lot of things we've never tried before. Some worked really well, some we might have to tweak a little bit, some we might forget. But what it's doing is it's bringing people downtown that have never been downtown before. I mean, I'm sure they have, but not in a way to experience it. And probably one of the best examples of it is, I know Joel had to leave, unfortunately, early, but we partnered with North Point Community Church on the Christmas tree lighting this year. Now, numbers aren't everything, but in terms of introducing and getting people introduced to a city, this is pretty neat. And generally speaking, on a Christmas tree lighting, we have about 1,400 people show up for that event. This year, we partnered with North Point Community Church, who is one of our great faith-based citizens, and we're proud to have them here. And we had roughly around 10,000 people show up for that event. And it was people that don't generally come to downtown. Now, the exciting part of it for that event, as I saw it, was that, the restaurants everywhere were packed. We drove all the way up to Windward Parkway to try to get away from it, and we still had a 30-40 minute wait at Ippolito's. So, some of the restaurants said they had their busiest night. One restaurant ran out of food. Can you imagine if you're in the restaurant business and you ran out of food? I mean, that's a great night. It's pretty good. But not only that, but it's creating this sense of interest. It's kind of, we put this invite thing to create value and to create interest, especially in restaurants and businesses, to come forward. And yes, you're doing it because you think it's going to lead to that, but it's really cool when it does. Because, suddenly we're seeing Salt. You've probably seen the sign. They're going to open in a couple of months right there off of Main Street. 9th Street Kitchen, I know Larry Addig, that's going to be a tenant for you. Some restaurants I can't name. There's a pizza place I can't name that have been talking and seriously looking at investing. And the thing is that downtown so far, nothing's changed. We realigned Haynesbridge Road, that's it. Everything else is exactly the same as it was. But the interest, the vibrancy is coming, and we're looking at doing some more things going forward. So that's some of the really exciting part as we go forward. And we're not the only. Not only are the businesses noticing, but apparently, and I don't know exactly how, but Forbes magazine has noticed and named Alpharetta the 7th friendliest city in the country. I think they are off by about 6, but hey, we'll take it. There was no other friendly city in Georgia, so we know that. So even Savannah, but anyway, so we've got some great things on when it comes to the invite situation, and we know. In one area, I'll also throw in there with the invite, and I'll tip my hat to Peter. One of the first things Mr. Tokar was faced with was this opportunity for an opportunity zone, and an opportunity zone does not sound fun. It doesn't sound too exciting. It is something that you have to go through a process. You have to go through the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. Okay. And you've got to basically make, this is the thing, you've got to make the case that your economic situation isn't so great. And that's a big change, because first of all, we have a great economic situation. Second, our job generally is to say how great Alpharetta is, because it is. So it was a different concept to say, no, really, we need the tax break. But here's the thing that makes that exciting. And right now we've gotten our first opportunity zone passed, and Peter was a big part of that, and staff was a big part of that. For if you know where the Cobalt building is, right here on Windward Parkway, there's actually 2 buildings over there, right where Westside Parkway and Windward come together there on the left, across from Hewlett-Packard. That opportunity zone, and that building is being looked at right now. That opportunity zone, it's 30. If they bring a company in, which in other words, employers come from out of state, or they add employees that are here. In other words, not just transfer them from one location to another, but just organic growth. It's $3,500 per employee per year for 5 years. Okay. Now, if there's a 250-member company, and that's a fairly small company for this facility, then you're talking about $4.5 million. The companies of the size that are interested in this and they're kicking tires right now are of the 1,200 to 1,500 person level. So, and that's our first opportunity zone. We've got more that we're working on to try to get past, but it's a great way to again invite, and in this case business, to come and be a part of Alpharetta. Now going forward, we've got a lot more investing and inviting to do. The endow part, I'm not saying that we just ignore it, but it's going well. We've got a good situation with the way the city has been run and with the way our expert staff has been doing their job. But the invest and the invite, that's the part that is the duty of this council. And we've got a lot of things, a lot of really fun things and exciting things to look at as we go forward. One of the things we'll be considering, and I don't know which way it'll go, but we're considering a convention center, and I think that's exciting because that could help us be on the forefront and on the economic leadership side. We're also considering seeking a 4-year institution, and we're looking for ways to try and make that happen. We're actually in the process in the next few weeks considering whether we do a food truck event. You've probably seen that in the paper. But again, on that invest and that invite side. So as we go forward, we'll be looking for ways, A, to draw community together within our businesses, within our technology community, within our neighbors. I tell you, and I tell this story all the time, one of the best things I've enjoyed about seeing the events downtown, and to circle back around for a moment, is that when I go there, especially the one I noticed it the most was the Brew Moon Festival, and you guys here at the Alpharetta Business Association do a lot about that, do a lot of work with that. The neat thing is that when you go, you see not just families coming, not just a couple coming as a date, but the coolest thing is that you'll see cul-de-sacs and streets come, people who know each other and found an opportunity to come together and just do something as a group. And those are the things that start to add value beyond geography. And going back to the hometown situation, and I told you that what Alpharetta's problem is with respect to hometown is that most folks who live in Alpharetta could not have possibly grown up in Alpharetta. But a hometown is really a town that you feel at home in. It can be the place that you grew up, or it can be the place where your family is now. And you know, as we look to add value through endowing, through investing, through inviting, you can help, and this is what I would ask of you. And I'm not asking you to turn your back on the town that you grew up, but what I would ask is if you could consider Alpharetta your hometown. Because if you consider Alpharetta your hometown, can you imagine what it would be like if 30,000 people, just half the city, considered Alpharetta their hometown? What they would do, what they would give, what they would do volunteering, how they would engage. It's pretty amazing. And so my challenge to you is if you don't already, consider Alpharetta your hometown, even if you grew up in New Jersey or some other place that talks funny. We want to make sure that we've got a community that creates that value beyond geography. So we're excited you're here. We're excited for your support of this city. Thank you very much. God bless.